In this video, I'm going to share with you what I personally do to deal with closed-minded people. Now, a closed-minded person is someone who's not willing to consider different ideas or opinions other than their own. It's either their way or no way. They're right and others are wrong. In other words, they have a one-dimensional view in life. For example, have you ever been in a conversation or witnessed a conversation taking place where the other person won't even take the time to listen to another person's point of view, opinions, or ideas about something because they're so caught up and fixated on their own ideas and opinions about stuff that the thought of being challenged or possibly being wrong scares them so much that they would rather not listen. Hence the term closed-minded or narrow-minded. Whereas an open-minded person wants to know why you think this way. They want to know why you think in the particular way that you do. They ask questions because that's how you get answers. Without asking questions, assumptions happen. So with an open-minded person, they're open to being challenged. They're open to being wrong because that's how you progress in life. That's how you better yourself in life. Now, the disadvantage to being closed-minded is that it stops you from growing as a person and it stops you from learning new things because it narrows your field of vision. For example, think of the last time you had an eye test done. Now, part of the eye test, or it may be an additional upgrade that you have to pay for, there's something called a peripheral vision test. And what that test is you look into a machine where they show you these dots, and these dots appear outside of your central line of sight, so your peripheral vision, and you have a remote control in your hand, and each time you see one of these dots that appear, you click the button, which then sends a message to the machine to say that you've recognized this dot outside of your central line of sight, your peripheral vision. So the better your peripheral vision is, the more of these dots you'll be able to see. And the more narrow visioned you are, the less of these dots you'll be able to see. So you have less of a peripheral vision. So what's my point behind sharing that with you? So a person who is closed-minded has a limited peripheral vision. And a person who is open-minded has a wider peripheral vision because they're more open to seeing things. Whereas a person who has limited peripheral vision, they're very, very narrow in their thinking. Anything outside of their direct line of sight isn't recognized. It's just foreign to them. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's the way I like to see it. And that's the way it makes sense to me. With that said, the first thing I do to deal with closed-minded people is I try my best to explain things in as much detail as possible. So my goal is to try and educate them and not convince them. You don't want to try and convince people. You just want to try and educate them by sharing as much information as you possibly can in a logical manner, and why you say what you say and why you do what you do. Because the more information you give a person in a simplistic manner, but also using logic, just bringing things to their logical conclusion, the better the chances are of them being able to possibly understand you, and possibly, I say possibly because it's just a possibility, and possibly being able to see things from your perspective, from a different perspective. After all, that is what a open-minded person is, right? Being able to see things from a different perspective. And after explaining your point of view the best you can, they now have new information and new evidence to make their own mind up. And if you're lucky and they're mature enough, they'll soon realize that their way is not the only way. And people have different opinions and beliefs in life. And that's all right. It's fine. It's fine to have different opinions. It shouldn't be seen as a threat. That's just the way life is. Now, when I'm in a conversation with someone, I try my best to keep an open mind. And the reason why is because you never know when you're going to learn something new from someone. And even if they're saying things that I don't particularly agree with, I still listen. I'm still open to hearing them out. I let them share their point of view. I do not shut them down, because you have to allow a person to completely finish their thought before you make a judgment, because they might say something that surprises you and it has sound reasoning, but You've just never thought of that perspective before. And you never know when your ideas, beliefs, or opinions about something may be wrong or not what you thought until you allow yourself to go into things with an open mind. Now, before we move on, my name's Luke and this channel is all about personal development, and I'll be sharing the things I've learned and continuously learn. So if you enjoy content around trying to improve yourself, overall personal development, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, the second thing I do to deal with closed-minded people is something that you may not like, but I would much rather be direct with you rather than sugarcoating things, because it's the truth and it's the way I see it. If I'm not getting anywhere with someone and I've genuinely tried my best to help them see things from a different perspective and they're still not willing to consider different ideas or opinions other than their own, basically being one-dimensional in their thinking, then I just don't bother with them anymore. I stop wasting my time and energy trying to open their mind, trying to help them see things from a different perspective, because it's not worth it. It's draining. And if they're so narrow-minded that they won't even take the time or just a few seconds to think, hold on a minute, what if I am wrong? What if the things I think are not what I think they are? They're actually different. They're different to what I think they are. Maybe just consider that thought. Maybe just take some time with that thought. What if? What if the things I've believed in? What if the way I've been doing things maybe ain't right? Just considering that makes you an open-minded person. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but at least be open to the idea of being able to understand somebody else's point of view, somebody else's opinion, somebody else's perspective, because not everyone thinks like you do. Not everyone thinks like I do. And as the saying goes, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Just think about that one. With that said, if you want to know what I personally do to deal with negative people, then make sure you click here, where I shot a video on that exact topic called How to Deal with Negative People.